Crafting a response to an economic crisis, Mark Carney announcing Canada will match the U.S. with its own 25% tariffs on vehicles imported from the states not compliant with CUSMA.
Good afternoon. Canada may have been spared from the global tariffs announced by the president yesterday, but there is unprecedented economic uncertainty.
Mark Carney spoke moments ago announcing that Canada will slap 25% tariffs on U.S. vehicles that are not compliant with the free trade agreement, saying an era of increasingly close economic partnership with Washington is over.
Yesterday marked the latest in President Trump's unprecedented series of U.S. tariffs that are designed to reshape the international trading system. The ambition of these measures is enormous. The effects on the global economy will be monumental. We received confirmation that the latest reciprocal tariffs will not be imposed on Canada. At the same time, President Trump confirmed that the tariffs announced last week against our auto industry will come in, and indeed have come into effect today. So while it's progress that further tariffs were not imposed on Canada yesterday, the President's actions will reverberate here in Canada and across the world.
And CTV's Scott Hurst has been following this. He joins us now with more. Scott, what are the big takeaways from what the Prime Minister had to say?
Michelle, we've been following Mark Carney's reaction and response to what we got out of the White House yesterday. Of course, Donald Trump billing it as Liberation Day for the U.S. as the Trump administration is now imposing significant so-called reciprocal tariffs on a whole host of trading partners right across the globe. So we now know that the latest reciprocal tariffs that Donald Trump imposed yesterday will not be imposed specifically on Canada. So on one hand, we're learning this from Mark Carney in terms of the reaction. We may have dodged a significant escalation in the trade war, but our country, of course, did not escape unscathed. There are 3 different sets of U.S. tariffs currently in place, including the newly imposed tariffs on automobiles. Carney saying they are all unjustified, unwarranted, and misguided, and we're already seeing the consequences with an auto assembly plant in Windsor shutting down for 2 weeks with more than 3,000 workers now on edge. So here's what we know from the Prime Minister in terms of what Canada is doing now. The government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States that are not compliant with our North American Free Trade Agreement. That is the CUSMA deal that Donald Trump signed in his first term in the White House. Our tariffs will not affect auto parts, and they will not affect vehicle content from Mexico. Mark Carney also going on to say that now's the time that Canada needs to be looking elsewhere to continue to build our economy through trade if the United States cannot be a reliable trading partner, as we've been seeing under the Trump administration, Michelle.
Yesterday, Trump called it Liberation Day. Trump saying this is a new era for the United States. The world today reacting. Why don't you recap for us those global reciprocal tariffs that Trump unveiled today and what it means?
Yeah, those reciprocal tariffs that Trump unveiled, it really was almost like a campaign-style stop that we became used to leading up to the election. Big American flags behind him. He even had one of those red MAGA hats that at one point he threw out to the crowd. Most of his administration was there in support, and of course he had those big printed poster boards which detailed all the countries that were being hit by these reciprocal tariffs. And Michelle, at one point I'm sure you and I and many Canadians at home were squinting trying to go down that list, see where Canada was, and luckily we were not on those specific lists. But as we mentioned, we are not unscathed from the recent announcements coming out of the White House. But in terms of the reciprocal tariffs that are affecting dozens of countries right now, there are countries that are now dealing with tariffs anywhere from 10 to upwards of 50% imposed by the United States. So quite a significant shift in the global trading structure. As Mark Carney pointed out, that Donald Trump is really looking to reshape the entire world trading situation right now.
Remains to be seen what this will all mean going forward. CTV Scott Hurst, live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Meantime, Doug Ford spoke about the Premier's meeting with Mark Carney. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with more on what he said. Siobhan.
Well, the Premier's call lasted about 40 minutes, and Doug Ford emerged from that call calling Mark Carney's plan that he presented to the Premiers fair and measured. The Premier said that everybody on the call agreed that the plan, or what Canada saw, was the best of a bad deal. A little comfort, though, with those damaging steel, aluminum and auto tariffs already having an effect this morning. We heard Scott talk about the shutdown of the Stellantis plant in Windsor. That's having an effect, a ripple effect through the supply chain and costing American jobs as well. Ford believes the threat of automakers shifting production to the U.S. is still very high today, and there could be more hits coming.
If they continue wanting to go after our lumber is used for housing in the U.S. It's a high-grade lumber, and that's just going to drive the cost up of housing. If they go after, continue to go after the auto sector, it's going to drive the cost up of autos for Americans. And if they go after our pharmaceuticals, especially seniors that rely on more cost-effective pharmaceuticals, that's going to drive the cost up.
Doug Ford noted that Mark Carney's plan had the buy-in of all premiers. He especially made a point to say that included Western premiers. Yesterday, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith called the fact that we didn't see any new tariffs levied against Canada yesterday an important win. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still ahead, we'll have more on how the trade war with the U.S. is impacting the federal election campaign trail. That's coming up a little later in the newscast. Well, the rainfall warning is over in the GTA, but yesterday's downpour left its mark on the region.
It caused flooding in certain areas, in some cases leading to road closures. CTV's John Musselman is live with more, tracking the aftermath of that storm. And what a storm, John.
Sure was, but what a difference, Michelle. 24 hours later, this weather is now beautiful, but we're here on Bayview Avenue. We want to show you some video shot this morning. Bayview Avenue was closed southbound because of that extensive rain and flooding we had yesterday, so traffic was being detoured. The water started to recede into the Don River, but also crews were here trying to clear the roadway. We can now report that Bayview South is open, but let's think back to yesterday at around this time. The weather, the freezing rain, the snow, the temperatures, it was very uncomfortable for a lot of people who weren't ready for all of this weather. And then in the evening, as the weather sort of calmed down a bit and the temperatures went up, we saw some pretty impressive flooding in the area right across the GTA. And some of that flooding was on highway off-ramps and on local roadways, but also some flooding in some condo garages. We did speak to a woman who was shooting video as the water was rising in her condo building. The water entered her car. We had a chance to speak to this condo owner and the damage of her car, and we also spoke to the OPP about road conditions now as we switch into this new weather pattern.
We're going to have to scoop out water for sure. There's going to be damage mechanically. This morning, it was about 7:30. I noticed the lights. I was down there, and I noticed the lights were flashing on and off. I know that there's going to be that that dirty water smell, that sort of fish tank smell is going to be there. We're not going to be able to turn the car on. We're awaiting a tow truck now. We've been in touch with insurance. I know that there's going to be just mechanical damage.
Yeah, well, that standing water, that flooding, that ponding really can catch drivers by surprise. You go too fast, you're going to hydroplane on top of that. It may very often cause you to panic. It very often feels like it's pulling you into the water because of the extra drag on one side of the vehicle. So that is something you need to be aware of. Keep a firm grip on the steering wheel, but you got to take it slow, because if you go too fast, you're going to start hydroplaning, and then you have absolutely no control of your vehicle's steering or braking abilities.
So as you heard Kerry Schmidt, if you're in an area with some ponding, take it easy on the roads. We can report that southbound Bayview is now open to traffic. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. We got more news in a moment, but first, I'm going to show you a live look at the city this afternoon. What a difference a day makes. No more snow, rain, and ice pellets. Instead, lots of sunshine, warm air, almost feeling like summer. So enjoy this day. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
There is one trade-off, Nathan, and that's the fact that it's quite windy outside still. It's those winds and the direction they're coming from ushering in all that mild air. But we are saying goodbye to the low-pressure system that brought us all those different types of precipitation, including some pretty wild thunderstorms overnight last night. Clearing continues. We are enjoying sunshine at this hour in Toronto, but Environment Canada issued this special weather statement warning of wind gusts upwards of 80 kilometers per hour today. Right now, those winds are coming out of the southwest, sustained around 40K, but gusting stronger than that. Right now, about 54K at Pearson Airport. It is 19 degrees, so there we go. We've already surpassed our forecast daytime high of 18. Many communities will be around 20 degrees this afternoon. We're going to take you through the forecast coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A man is dead after a crash in Etobicoke. Toronto police say two vehicles collided near Kipling and Genthorne Avenue, north of Rexdale Boulevard, around 7 last night. A man in his 60s was taken to hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. No other injuries have been reported. The cause of the crash is still under investigation.
A man is in hospital following a slashing incident in Richmond Hill. This happened shortly before 8 last night in the area of Yonge and Elgin Mills. Police say the victim was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. They did not provide any information on suspects, but did say the suspects are known to the victim and the incident is believed to have been targeted. Police say there is no risk to public safety.
Federal party leaders continue to hit the campaign trail today, pitching policies to Canadians across the country. CTV's Jeremy Chiron joins me now from Ottawa with the latest. Jeremy, how are the candidates reacting to President Trump's big announcement?
Yeah, Nathan, look, that is driving the campaign trail as to be expected today. Mark Carney, of course, acting as Prime Minister, announcing Canada's retaliation today before he heads back out on the campaign trail. But the other leaders today also focusing on Donald Trump, the man in the White House, the announcement yesterday, and how their party would respond to these tariffs and to this trade war if elected. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, in a stop in Kingston this morning, promised to eliminate the sales tax on Canadian vehicles if his government were to be elected. And NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced kind of a slew of measures to tackle this, including reintroducing victory bonds, guaranteed investments for Canadians, a wartime measure that his party is pitching that could help Canadians in this situation. Here's a little more from both Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh today.
So we need to have an EI that covers more of workers' salaries so they can actually pay their bills, pay their mortgage, keep food on the table. And that's got to be job number one today in the face of these tariffs.
A new Conservative government will eliminate the federal sales tax on Canadian-made automobiles.
Now, the Bloc Québécois doing the same today, focusing on tariffs. The Green Party as well. Look, all party leaders, Nathan, focus solely today on responding to Donald Trump, as they understand that is what all Canadians are focused on right now in this first day. While Canada, avoided the reciprocal tariffs yesterday, the tariffs on the auto sector came into effect at midnight, of course. And so that is the big thing today. That is what Mark Carney announced Canada's retaliation to today. And certainly it is the big driving factor on the campaign trail today.
Yeah, no question about that. CTV's Jeremy Chiron in Ottawa with an update on what the federal leaders are up to today. Thank you.
Anytime.
Meanwhile, the federal Conservatives have removed their candidate in the riding of Etobicoke North. The party released a statement last night saying it had removed Don Patel as its candidate over comments deemed anti-Sikh. The party shared a screenshot of messages Patel had posted with anti-Sikh sentiments. The party has not indicated who will be replacing Patel in the riding. Also, the latest Nanos poll for CTV News and the Globe and Mail shows the Liberals climbing to 45.8% support and the Tories down to 36.7%. The NDP also slid a bit to 8.8%. Now, it is worth noting these percentages are among decided voters only out of more than 1,200 Canadians who were polled.
As for who Canadians would like to see in the Prime Minister's office, Liberal leader Mark Carney climbed 1.4% in the latest Nanos polling, putting him at 50%. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's at 32.8%, and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is at 4.7%. The figures in these Nanos polls are considered accurate between 2.8 percentage points 19 times out of 20. Hospital officials in Gaza say dozens were killed in overnight Israeli strikes across the territory. Authorities put the number of dead at least 55. Israel said this week it would seize large areas of Gaza and establish a new security corridor across the Palestinian territory in its escalating fight against Hamas. A fragile ceasefire and hostage exchange fell apart last month as Israel and the militant group accused each other of negotiating in bad faith. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, was in Hungary today, meeting with its prime minister. Hungary says it's withdrawing from the International Criminal Court, where Netanyahu faces a warrant for alleged war crimes in Gaza.
I thank you, Victor. This is not only important for us, it's important for all democracies. It's important to stand up to this corrupt organization that has equated a democracy that is challenged for its very existence by the most horrific terroristic powers on earth.
Hungary's populist government has argued it believes the ICC is no longer impartial because of its actions regarding Israel. Critics say the two leaders are using the visit to deflect scrutiny of their own domestic political crises. Returning to the newly imposed U.S. tariffs, countries right across the globe have been speaking out against the move by the Trump administration. China says Washington is only using the term reciprocal tariffs as a pretext. Beijing said the actions are a serious violation of World Trade Organization rules and significantly damage the rules-based international trade system. A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry said Beijing is ready to take necessary measures in response, and there are no winners in a trade war. The tariffs have also prompted tensions with U.S. allies in Europe.
Last night, the President of the United States acted for his country, and that is his mandate. Today, I will act in Britain's interests with mine. I understand how important this is for your businesses, as it is for the British people. So we move now to the next stage of our plan. Decisions we take in coming days and weeks will be guided only by our national interest, in the interests of our economy.
The UK wasn't the only American ally to speak out.
For Australia, these tariffs are not unexpected, but let me be clear, they are totally unwarranted. President Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be 0, not 10%. The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Washington was adding to uncertainty in the global economy and would push up costs for American households, but Australia wouldn't retaliate.
Well, as you know, we had a whole lot of rain yesterday, along with a plethora of different types of precipitation. Here's a look at some of the totals that have been reported to Environment Canada, and an area particularly hit hard around Waterloo region and southwest Ontario. Even Hamilton, though, picking up more than 50 millimeters of rainfall. Guelph seeing about 77 millimeters. So it's dry today, but you can expect the dog park is going to be a little bit muddy today in spots if you're heading out. Enjoy that sunshine and those mild temperatures, because we've got another round of wet weather on the way for the weekend. We'll show you the timing of it and how much to expect this time coming up here on CTV News at noon. We'll be right back.
April is Earth Month, and there is a new exhibit that has just opened in Toronto, all about highlighting the small changes we can make that could have a big impact on our planet. That's where we find our Jessica Smith this hour. She's down at Arcadia Earth with all the details. Give us the tour, Jess.
Well, we are in the Earth Room, and it is so cool to see the little changes we can all make to make our Earth, our home, a better place. Craig Perlmutter, the man behind the Earth Wonderful Madness. Talk to me about the idea behind this, because what we're watching right now was created by Canadian artists.
Yes, absolutely. We had called the Canadian digital artists about 2 or 3 months ago and had 22 submissions. And we really wanted something that was going to be very poignant towards our Earth Month mission. And this group of 4 Canadians really brought home that messaging in their submission. And it resonates with everyone, every age group, and because we all use the internet. So it takes simple internet searches, and you'll see, takes simple internet searches and just takes a little twist. Instead of looking for a brand new Lego set, maybe try and look for Lego sets that are pre-loved and pre-used, and you can go get them elsewhere. So.
And I feel like it's the small changes that we can all make that have the biggest impact. Sometimes it can be overwhelming thinking, okay, I have to, redo my entire life to be able to help the planet, but it's the small changes that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. That's the whole part of our Earth Month initiative, is small changes, big impact. And this room is called Every Action Has a Reaction. And at the end, it has people think about their own pledges. And we have a pledge wall at the end of the exhibit where people can fill out stickers and make a pledge and make a difference for this Earth Month and hopefully beyond. And the room takes you through different topics from electronics and food and fashion and transportation to give people little tidbits of things that they can do a little bit differently.
So you guys are just open. We had the first school group come through today. We saw them earlier, the teeny tiny ones. They were so cute. How does it make you feel to see these kids coming in, from the kindergarten kids to the older ones, really soaking in this in their own unique way?
Yeah, it's very special. Look, we want kids of all ages to come through the experience. It's entertaining, it's fun, it's immersive. There's great technology, great art, but we want them to start soaking up at a young age things that they should be thinking about to help the planet. And it doesn't start at when you're an adult, it starts when you're a kid. There's so many things kids can do a little bit differently, and it may push their parents and their schools to live a little bit more sustainably and think about the environment, think about the planet.
And it is cool that you can see these questions that get put up there, refurbished cell phones, thinking about different ways to interact with the spaces around us. The goal, is it correct, just to make us all think a little bit harder about it and know that these changes are absolutely possible no matter who you are?
Absolutely. And that's something that I've learned a lot being open for almost a year and a half now. People want to do better. People want to make a difference. And yeah, there's some simple things that they already know about: use less plastic water bottles and use reusable, but there's so many other things that they're not sure about. And some things they know to do differently, but if you give them
Small changes, big impacts. It goes until the end of the month. Craig, thank you so much. We're going to send things back inside. I'm going to finish making my pledge. But you know what? Come on down, check it out. All the school groups, they're all invited. We'll send things back inside.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. Yes, the Earth truly is wondrous, and the weather has been dishing out all the things recently. Did you hear the thunder and the lightning last night?
Yeah, I did hear loud noises, and I was wondering what was going on, but I knew it was coming. But it's hard to believe yesterday it was snow outside, and today it feels and looks almost like summer.
I know. Well, now it's a collision of 3 seasons. We had winter, spring, and now, yeah, feeling a little more like summer today. Certainly feeling more like May than April. Yesterday it felt a little more like February or March at times. And now, yeah, there's been some flood cleanup that had to happen. It's still very windy outside, but I think we're all ready for a bit of a break. And yes, that comes today and tomorrow in the form of sunshine. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Now, one other part of this weather story, not so much here in southern Ontario, but stateside. I mean, look at that. Tornadic activity yesterday in parts of the U.S. Midwest, the southern states as well. All thanks to the same system that brought us snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and thunderstorms. Not nearly as severe, but yes, thunderstorm activity nevertheless. It was mainly portions of northeastern Arkansas and Missouri impacted yesterday. And if you take a look here, you can see that we've already got some active weather once again across the United States. Similar areas, seeing some thunderstorms targeting them today. Risk of thunderstorms and tornadoes there once more. Now, Now, we, on the other hand, are experiencing some clearing in southern Ontario. Again, beautiful change. We're enjoying some sunshine. Goodbye to that area of low pressure. Hello to high pressure, at least for a day or two here, because some wet weather is set to return as we make our way into the weekend. We'll also see a little bit of cloud return early this evening and through the overnight hours. But again, it too is going to clear through the day tomorrow. A mostly sunny sky is what you can expect for your Friday. And then late night Friday, increase in cloud cover. Showers begin through the overnight hours, and then we're going to be dealing with some periods of rain on and off throughout the day on Saturday. There's 6 in the morning. Looks like a lot of this is going to clear out by the time we reach the second half of the afternoon and the early part of the evening. But Sunday appears to be quite cloudy as well. Bringing it back to today, I mentioned those winds. Perhaps you've already encountered them out there today. They're coming from a southerly direction, but could gust upwards of 80 kilometers per hour at times today. We're also going to tap into a bit more of a westerly wind later this afternoon, and then a northwest wind through the overnight hours tonight. So that cools our temperature back to reality for an overnight low. But daytime highs, let's talk about it. We are already at 19 degrees here in Toronto. So at this point, thinking it's we could easily hit 20 through the early part of this afternoon and then into this evening. Still lots of sun through the 6 and 7 p.m. hours, with the exception of that cloud cover starting to increase. And tomorrow, pleasant, mainly sunny skies, daytime high of 12. That's on the warm side of seasonal, but not well above seasonal like it is today. Then into the weekend, yeah, it's still mild for Saturday, but we're going to cool down for Sunday with a daytime high of 8. Look what happens next week, though. 7 degrees for Monday, overnight low -6, and then Tuesday we're going to struggle to make it to about 2 degrees. So feeling like winter once again. That's your look at the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Just like that. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, coming up, a Make-A-Wish recipient had her dreams come true with the trip of a lifetime. Details after the break. Make-A-Wish Canada is marking a major milestone today. 40,000 wishes granted to critically ill children since the early 80s.
And with April being World Wish Month, the charitable organization is sharing a story of someone whose wish recently came true. CTV's Andrea Case reports.
Visiting CTV News Toronto, Lily Farrell is getting ready for her close-up with some help from makeup artist Renee. The 13-year-old looks the picture of good health, but her mom, Kristen Farrell, admits it wasn't always the case.
No one thinks of that when you have a baby, that to think about life expectancy. You just think of life. And so this was a different experience for us.
Lily's parents were both born with the cystic fibrosis gene. As a baby, she tested positive for the disease, which affects the lungs, digestive tract, and other organs. After years of illness, a breakthrough for a disease for which there is no known cure.
Pretty good. Trikafta has made it like a lot better. So Trikafta is the medicine that scientists came up with to it doesn't cure CF, but it also doesn't not cure it. It's a miracle.
Last year, Lily qualified to be a recipient of Make-A-Wish Canada, an organization which creates life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses.
I've always been obsessed with trains since I was a little kid. You know how on the GO train it's mind the doors are closing? I would always recite that whenever it's just a little quirk I have.
Parents are not involved in the child's wish-making decision.
I'm not going to lie, I was completely surprised. I did not know what she was going to wish. I did not know what she was thinking, but she'd seen a YouTube video about the Canadian and the trip across Canada on Via. Who knew that a Canadian trip would be so timely to stay in Canada and enjoy our country for exactly what it is, which is incredible.
The trip, her choice, traveling 4,411 kilometers by train from Toronto to Vancouver.
Every little hill that we passed on the way to BC and Alberta, I was just like, is that a mountain? And Mom was like, no, you'll know a mountain when you see it. And I definitely indeed knew a mountain.
It took 97 hours or 4 days and gave Lily, her mother, and grandparents the trip of a lifetime.
I thought it was great before, but now I'm just like, it's confirmed. Canada's awesome.
Something Christina never knew she needed.
I order all their medications, I keep track of all of her appointments. There's a lot of effort that goes in that you don't really see when you have a chronic illness and you're managing a chronic illness. So to have a trip that really, I didn't have to do anything. I just got to show up and enjoy and just be a family. And that was really, really special part. So we're so grateful to Make-A-Wish, and thank you for everyone for making this possible.
and a lesson no child should ever have to learn.
I didn't know it was really hard for them, because they thought I was gonna die, right? But I didn't.
The median age for someone diagnosed with CF is 54 years. Now the Farrell family is looking beyond that.
We went from having 1 to 2 hospitalizations a year to now being 3 years with nothing, which is incredible. I used to hold back vacation days because I wasn't sure if she'd be in the hospital. And of course I work, so I'd have to hold those back. And this last summer was the first summer I've used all my vacation.
Vacations are now for making memories. And thanks to Make-A-Wish Canada, this trip across the country is one they won't forget. Make-A-Wish Canada is celebrating 40,000 wishes granted since 1983. They want to do so much more because there's 3,700 people waiting for their wish to be granted. It's looking for donations, volunteers, and fundraising. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Today also marks a major milestone for Sick Kids Hospital. Today is the facility's 150th birthday. The pillar of pediatric care was launched on April 3rd, 1875 by Elizabeth McMaster and a group of Toronto women. Since then, the Hospital for Sick Children has grown to be ranked the #1 publicly funded children's hospital in the world. A special celebration event is going to be held in Nathan Phillips Square on June 7th. Well, amid all the talk about tariffs and sovereignty, the Autism Alliance of Canada is hoping to make its own mark on the federal election campaign.
As our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, they've created an election toolkit to help.
For most families dealing with autism, the provincial stage is the main arena, dealing with healthcare and education. But with the federal election looming, the Autism Alliance of Canada is hoping to put its concerns on a national stage. Maddie Dever is an autistic advocate and the parent of 4 kids with autism.
There are more issues that are facing us than just our experience with our southern neighbors. There are matters of policy that are important to push and talk to your local candidates about.
The Autism Alliance of Canada has put together an election toolkit to help those in the autism community voice their concerns to candidates and other voters. And at the top of their list is the need to make the disability tax credit simpler and more accessible. Dever says the language is often cumbersome and some sections need to be filled out by a doctor to explain a patient's particular needs.
They don't see how important this is to unlock all of the things that the government is now basing on, like the Canada Disability Benefit. You only can get that if you have the disability tax credit. Things like the Registered Disability Savings Program, you can only get that if you have the disability tax credit.
The Alliance is also calling for a dedicated fund to train autism support workers.
Another one is training community physicians to diagnose autism. There's a lot of waitlists across the country, and that is one of the bottlenecks.
Executive Director Jonathan Lai says the Alliance represents about 1,000 organizations across Canada with an estimated 1 million families affected.
They're not partisan at all. They're just good ideas for any federal government to try to take up.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Canada's federal prisons are connecting inmates to the internet for the first time.
W5's John Woodward got access inside a correctional facility in Ontario for an exclusive look at the risks and rewards.
Barbed wire surrounds Bath Institution, a federal medium security prison on the shores of Lake Ontario. It has been home to notorious criminals. It's an unforgiving place. But on the inside, prisoners can see this. A lush landscape, a river with companions along the water. It's not real, it's virtual reality, and it's one part of a technological revolution in Canadian prisons that could change how prisoners learn, and the system hopes could cut down on serious crime. W5 was invited inside of Bath Institution to see how this transformation is happening and why.
It gave me a chance to make a professional.
Inmate Daniel using second-hand computers to complete a high school assignment on a newly accessible online platform. He hopes it will help him get a job when he's released after serving time for sexual assault.
I don't want to be offended. I don't want that. The world doesn't want that.
But he faces challenges, among them an uphill battle against the statistics, says project advisor Marcy Beitner.
So about 75% of offenders don't have a high school diploma when they enter the institution, and that's why it's CSC's priority to upgrade their education.
We're currently looking at a digital strategy for all of CSC.
A strategy, says Corrections Chief Information Officer Stéphane Blanchard, that puts online courses into Canadian prisons for the first time, but also keeps things highly monitored.
And we work with the institutions to make sure everything is secure, up to standard.
Internet behind bars can be a problem. For example, in Ontario jails, one convicted romance scammer, John Mulder, appeared to set up an online dating account from behind bars.
You was in rehab bench pressing.
Toronto rapper Top 5 shot an entire music video while thanking the guards who smuggled the cell phone in for him, he said, for $10,000. All of that accomplished through smuggled cell phones like this one. Across the country, including all prison systems, the number of contraband phones seized adds up to about 4,800 a year, or a rate of 13 a day, giving an extraordinary number of prisoners access to the internet with no monitoring at all.
Why do people want cell phones so much?
They want an unrestricted access to the internet and unrestricted access to their family. So if they want to stay on the phone all day with their family, then they gotta purchase a phone on the black market, essentially.
Corrections is realizing that security only goes so far, says Blanchard. Another way to cut down on smuggling is to tackle the demand.
If we were to provide email for some offenders in the future, maybe they would not resort to other type of access to have these emails sent out.
Right now, the computers just have access to high school courses.
So you can't Google anything, can't send an email?
No.
Can't go on Facebook?
Nope. Very restricted.
The coursework, something to put on a resume. Daniel graduated grade 12.
2 months later, I was walking across the stage for graduation as valedictorian. And if you had told me I would have been valedictorian 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you.
With that diploma, Daniel hopes he can avoid coming back to Bath Institution.
That report from CTV's John Woodward. Now, still to come, in this new trade war era, how will tariffs affect the cost of new and used cars? Insights from industry experts after this short break.
The U.S. president made his tariffs announcement after stock markets closed yesterday, but they plummeted when they opened today. So far, the S&P TSX composite here in Toronto is down more than 750 points, or around 3%. The Dow Jones in New York is down around 2.8%, or nearly 1,200 points for the day. The Nasdaq is doing even worse, shedding 4.5% in the trading session. Analysts say the markets are bracing for Trump's tariffs to prompt higher inflation and lower economic growth, both abroad and in the U.S.
And now that those U.S. auto tariffs are in effect, the auto sector is bracing for an increase in the cost of vehicles as well as auto parts.
It means the next car, truck, or SUV you buy, whether it's new or used, will likely cost you more money. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
Americans worried about tariffs went on a buying spree last month, with car sales in the U.S. up almost 14%. In Canada, consumers have been taking a more cautious approach.
If anything, buying is down because consumers are uneasy and they're hanging on to their wallets pretty tight right now because they don't know what's coming.
The Used Car Dealers Association of Ontario says it appears new car prices will be going up. That's not good news for its 5,000 members, most who are dealers, saying the cost of used cars won't be far behind, which is bad for the industry and consumers.
New vehicle prices are going to go through the roof by thousands of dollars, all the experts say. And that inevitably will trickle down to the used market. So we could expect probably by 26 that used vehicle prices will start just going up.
We're not advising consumers to panic and rush out to buy a new car tomorrow.
Car Help Canada says it doesn't expect to see massive price hikes in new cars right away, but feels dealers may reduce incentives and look at cost-cutting measures. It's advising to wait and see how manufacturers deal with the tariffs.
There will still be time to get a reasonable or good deal on a new car before we see massive price increases.
Auto Trader says it's noticed more activity with consumers searching for vehicles. It says used car prices had been dropping year over year, but if tariffs drive up the cost of new cars, buyers will turn to the used car market and reverse the trend.
There's definitely going to be an impact on the used car demand as we've been experiencing since the beginning of March, and therefore used car prices will also go up.
Auto parts are also subject to the tariffs, which will make cars more expensive to build and repair, which will also lead to higher prices for both new and used vehicles. Pat Foran, CTV News.
Many are worried about the impact of tariffs on food prices in this country.
Concerns over rising prices are on the minds of producers and consumers and those who provide food services for people who are in need. CTV's Allison Hurst has the details.
These are an Italian variety eggplant.
Ernest Sabuma tends to his crop as concerns of tariff impact grow.
Our expenses are kind of really high compared to the past years.
Sarn Farms primarily produces food for the local Toronto market, but Sabuma says where he'll feel financial pressure is on equipment.
It's going to negatively impact our operating expenses because we do buy our tools and equipment mostly from companies that do import them from mostly the U.S.
U.S. tariffs briefly came into effect in March, and during that time, Ontario greenhouses experienced significant losses.
Over the 72-hour period that tariffs were implemented, our members were subjected to over $6 million worth of tariffs for the produce we exported into the United States.
Food prices are already high in this affordability crisis, so shoppers are bracing for impact.
It's ridiculous, but you got to eat anyways, so you buy anyways.
I do feel for the individual businesses and small businesses. That's my concern.
Additional prices. There's a lot of things that come from the U.S. that we don't make here, we don't produce here, so they're going to go up.
Leading to more food insecurity.
It's unimaginable how heartbreaking it's going to be in Canada.
A Second Harvest study found Canadian households could see costs rise up to $1,900 annually.
As a human being, you are going to have a hard time buying groceries, period. But if you're a low-income human being or if you're on a fixed budget, you won't be able to.
We have spinach. We've planted carrots.
Sabuma already gave up buying U.S. seeds, instead switching to Canadian suppliers.
We are here to win the tariff war.
He hopes others will join in by buying local produce. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
The Maple Leafs were looking for a third straight win when they took on the Florida Panthers last night. The team took a 2-goal lead into the third period, but they were able to hold off a late rally by the Panthers, securing a 3-2 win. The victory secures the team a spot in the playoffs. The Leafs will be back on the ice Saturday to play the Columbus Blue Jackets. We got more news after the break. Stay with us. Some University of Guelph students are getting a real-life lesson on community building.
They're pitching ideas for the redevelopment of the former Downsview Airport for a developer's vision to create a new community. CTV's Hannah Schmidt reports.
Once a landing strip, this runway at the former Downsview Airport could soon become the spine of a thriving urban hub designed not for takeoffs, but for people, parks, and public spaces.
We really have the opportunity to create a new community, create a place that is connected.
Developer Northcrest is behind the plan to give the old site new life. And students from the University of Guelph's School of Environmental Design and Rural Development are presenting their design ideas.
Students have worked on many large-scale community design projects in the past, but the one specifically with runway and airport design, not really. No, this is something new with them.
A plan that looks to redefine a 2-kilometer runway and 370 acres of space into vibrant, accessible communities.
I'm really proud of what we accomplished. I think that we've developed a lot of unique spaces and kind of doing the functionality towards the residents who are going to live there.
The vision is to make the runway area the spine of a series of connected neighborhoods, which could be home to a lot of people.
About 30 years from now, maybe more, maybe less, the entire thing is built out. We have about 80,000 people living and another 40,000 people working there. So a daytime population of about 120,000 people.
Students are diving into ideas that include mixed-use spaces, along with transit and ecological corridors, to stitch the site into the surrounding city.
A space that's really about placemaking and providing community and homes for people, as well as connection to things like biodiversity, locals in the community.
The students' designs are separate from Northcrest's official runway design competition, but it's an assignment that brings fresh perspectives to city building.
I'm hoping a profession like urban design and landscape architecture at such a large scale incorporates things like climate action, recreation, economic growth. All of these come into play,
showing that the sky's the limit for urban transformation.
Moving forward, what I'm hoping to be able to take from this is just taking in all those different actors and creating the positive spaces in the future.
Hannah Schmidt, CTV News, Guelph.
Pretty cool. All right, one last look at the forecast. We got through snow, ice pellets, rain, but now we've got wind.
Yes, but the reward is also some very mild temperatures and some sunshine out there too. So quite lovely at this hour. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar. What a difference. Again, we've said it a couple of times today compared to this time yesterday. All is clear. That cloud cover moving out. We are at 19 degrees here locally, 17 in Hamilton. There's the special weather statement reminding us of the winds, although if you're stepping outside, you probably don't need a reminder. Tonight we drop to 1 degree. That is normal. Tomorrow's high 12. Very pleasant, mainly sunny skies. And then Saturday, we're going to get back into some wet weather, mainly cloudy skies for Sunday. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. And that's CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.